Hello everyone, my name is KelSounds, and today I just want to show you something I've been trying out in Faceplant, which is dynamic EQ. But of course, if you want precise control over your sound, I would definitely recommend using a dynamic EQ. But this is just a fun little experiment I want to show you guys and how to do it. So before we start, I'm going to grab a sampler and use a sample here. Alright, so here it is, loop for example purposes. Yes, so now I'm going to draw this out. Actually, I'm going to, let me just, boom. Of course, it's going too fast, so we're going to have to set it to the right note. And then we're going to set this to 0 decibels. But yeah, this is my loop. It's just a kick, clap, and I think like 2 different hi-hats. Alrighty, so yeah, I'm going to use this loop to show you how I would go about using dynamic EQ inside of Faceplant. And so before I do, I kind of want to just go over briefly what is dynamic EQ. So I guess I could say traditional EQ works by having fixed gain values, and so if I grab a slice EQ here, any band that I use, set it to whatever frequency I want to reduce or bring out. And so this doesn't work dynamically, it's just still. And so that's how traditional EQ would work. These bands do not move up and down dynamically. And so dynamic EQ allows you to cut or boost certain frequencies according to the intensity of the input signal. So if I have my loop, let's say there's a certain frequency in this entire signal that I want to bring out or maybe even reduce. And by the way, dynamic EQ has like 2 modes, which is expand or compress. And compress is just, like I said before, reducing the signal, and expand is bringing up the overall volume of that frequency in the signal according to the threshold that you have set. So if I close this real quick, I'm going to grab a Pro Q3 here and kind of show you what I mean. So let's say I want to, I don't know, get rid of the sub in this loop here. I can make a dynamic band. I'm going to set this to 0 decibel. Oh, oops. I'm going to set this to 0 decibels. And so this is your threshold, which is controlling how much the signal is going to be compressed or how much it's going to be expanded. So if I want to get rid of the sub, I can compress that frequency of the signal. So I just bring down this threshold. And so anything going above that threshold, it's going to compress. And so I can do it by a little bit or by a whole lot, which completely gets rid of that sub. And the same applies for all the frequencies in this signal. I can either bring them out. Whoa, okay, sorry. Didn't mean to blow the ears off. Oops. So let's say maybe the clap isn't loud enough for me, or maybe it's not what I prefer. I can bring up the threshold here, which will then make that clap louder. Or maybe I want to reduce it. Then I bring the threshold down. Anything going above that threshold will be compressed. And of course I can adjust the Q here, which is controlling the width of this band. And so that's pretty much what dynamic EQ does. It allows you to either compress or expand this certain frequencies of a signal, which is very, very useful in your mixing. And so how do I do this inside of Faceplant? Well, like I said before, it's kind of just a fun experimentation thing, but if you want precise control, I definitely would consider using your own dynamic EQ, but I just kind of thought this was cool to do, just for funs. And even for sound design, you can do a lot of cool stuff with this for sound design purposes. Maybe you have a pad or like a bass noise you want to bring out or something. But let me go ahead and show you what I did here. So the 2 main effects that I used was MultiPass, also known as multi-pan, whoa, also known as a multi-band dynamics. And then I grabbed an audio follower, and the audio follower is pretty much like an envelope follower. And so what this is doing is it's tracking the volume of my signal here. Kind of go over what these different parameters do. So the gain kind of just adjusts the gain of the incoming audio signal. So the more I boost it, the more exaggerated it's going to be. As you can see, it's kind of like squaring up over here. And the attack time is how quickly it's going to react to the signal. And so the slower it is, the slower it reacts to the signal. The release time is how quickly the audio follower or envelope follower releases from the signal after it falls. So slower times, of course, is, as you can see, slower release times. And I'm just going to leave everything here as the default setting. Peak and RMS is, so peak is the whole volume. It's like all of it. It's going to capture all of the volume precisely as it is. RMS means root mean squared, which is the average loudness of the signal. And this little parameter here is your inputs. So right now it's tracking the input from the master volume. This group, which is a sampler, is going into lane 1, lane 1 is going to lane 2, and lane 2 is going to lane 3, lane 3 is going into the master, and this is tracking the master volume. And of course you can change it to different inputs, such as lane 1, so it only track the volume of lane 1, or if you want to track the volume of lane 2, it'll only track the volume of lane 2, depending if you have like different effects on these lanes. So yeah, back to the MultiPass. So what I did was I used MultiPass to kind of locate different frequencies within the signal. So I went, so I'll go ahead and solo the third band here. And let's say I want to bring up the clap. And let's say it's around this range, which is between 1000 hertz and 3500 hertz or something. And so what I would do is I'll grab an audio follower, and I can also have it track the different lanes here. So lane 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can see they are options here. Band 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And so this is lane 3. So I'll go ahead and have it track band 3. And maybe I'll bring up the gain a little bit to kind of get a louder signal coming in to the audio follower or envelope follower. And then what I can do is, you know, put a slice EQ on this band, put a point or a bell filter shape here, and then I can go ahead and automate that the gain of this frequency. So maybe I want to, I don't know, bring it down in volume. If I wanted to expand it, I can go higher in volume here. But let's say I want to get rid of it, so I'll go ahead and automate it fully on the, or modulate it fully on the gain parameter here. And then I can control how much of the dynamics of these frequencies are being compressed with the gain over here in the audio follower. So at negative 30 decibels, as you can see, there's barely any kind of movement, but of course there's still a little bit of movement, which is why if you're trying to do this for mixing, I would definitely recommend using a dynamic EQ, but just for the sake of this video, I think it's kind of fun to experiment with. But yeah, like I said, at negative 30 decibels, there is like no movement, and as I begin to increase this gain, you can see there's more and more movement. Oh, I didn't really track that pretty good, so I'm going to go ahead and move this closer to the clap here. But as I begin to increase the gain here, more and more compression is beginning to happen. And if I go ahead and increase it to 30 decibels, it's pretty much just compressing that signal completely. And so now, if I stop soloing this, the whole signal will sound like this. Makes the clap sound very different compared to this. And so yeah, that's how I would go about using dynamic EQ inside of Faceplant. Using a MultiPass to control which frequencies you want to compress or expand, and using an audio follower to track that incoming signal from that different band. And in Faceplant it's pretty cool because you can have up to 5 bands, which is pretty much more than you would need really. But yeah, I just thought that was really cool and really fun to kind of experiment with, and I'll definitely be using this for sound design purposes. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a like and subscribe if you're not, but you guys have a great week, and adios.